Oh crap, look how dark it is. 1 second, I'm gonna turn the light on. I don't know, once I press the record button, it goes way darker than it was before. There we go. Alright, so, welcome to the second volume of my YouTube show thingy called Wake the Dead. I'm still who I said I was on the introduction video. Nothing has changed in that department. And like I promised today is, I'm gonna be focusing on the principle of altruism. So, basically, the principle of altruism is putting the needs of others ahead of your own. And it's considered one of the most important spiritual principles through all different faiths and paths around the world. I think probably the first people to really understand its truth were the Buddhists and the Hindus with their the beings that they called bodhisattvas. Now, bodhisattvas were basically beings who no longer needed to reincarnate anymore, but they were coming back of their own free will in order to help other human beings to find enlightenment. And in Buddhism in particular, the bodhisattvas are greatly revered. They're revered above gods and goddesses. And there's said to be many alive in human form on Earth right now, trying to make the world a better place. And you know, who am I to debate that? I don't personally identify as a Buddhist, but you know, I have a couple good Buddhist friends, and I listen to their wisdom. I listen to what they have to say because they have a lot of good wisdom for the world. Basically, I have a certain definition of love. And I've yet to hear anybody else use the same definition. Love is the sacrifice of oneself for the greater good of another. And by another, I don't just necessarily mean one other human being. I can mean mankind in general. But what I'm talking about in this particular sense is the greater good of all. The greater good of all beings who have ever or will ever come into existence. Dying to yourself for that purpose. Now, dying to yourself, I'm not talking about self-harm, self-mutilation. I'm not even really talking about asceticism, though there is a certain element of that. By dying to yourself, I just mean dying to your lower self, dying to your ego. If you look at nature, if you look at the stars, the trees, the moon, the sun, everything in nature exists solely for the purpose of serving the greater good. Human beings are the only ones who deny this truth and work only to serve themselves. Now, I don't consider myself a Christian, but I have lots of Christian friends, and I listen to their advice because they have a lot of wisdom for the world. And Jesus, a man that I respect probably more than any other human being who's ever walked the planet, put it this way: you cannot serve both God and mammon. Now, a lot of translations of his teaching translated that to money, but really what he meant is you can't serve both the spirit and your flesh simultaneously. In Kabbalistic terms and in the Wiccan teachings to which I adhere, we believe that all the Sephiroth are equally holy. We believe that the physical realm is sacred as well as the astral plane, the mental, and the spiritual. But I mean, that's just my view. I would, of course, never enforce that on anybody else. However, every single person, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, can work on developing this ideal of altruism. But first, you have to see its significance, and you have to see that it is, in fact, the wisest way that you possibly can be. So when you live only for yourself, you're bound to run into countless problems, difficulties, difficult emotions, all sorts of trouble when you live only for yourself. But when you live for others, you're possessed with a sense of purpose. You're possessed with a sense of direction. And when you wake up in the morning, you feel like you're on planet Earth for a reason. You feel like you have an actual destiny to fulfill. And then you can actually go out and start doing that. And when you actually start doing that, it brings joy and peace and love into your heart in a way that serving yourself never can. You know, look at all the celebrities who commit suicide. They have all the money, all the power, all the women, and they're miserable. They're so miserable that they hang themselves or they put a gun to their head. I mean, obviously riches and fortune and fame are not the source of happiness. Obviously nothing you could, what good is it to gain the world and lose your soul, you know? So I'm talking about living in a way that serves the soul and that allows the soul to serve other souls, because ultimately we're all interconnected. We're all one. So by serving others, you are ultimately serving your own greater good as well. If you want your greater good to come into fruition, it exists in how well you are able to be of service to others. You know, that's kind of, it might sound, it's unnatural. People don't like hearing that because, you know, the system teaches us. There's a reality TV shows like The Real World and Jersey Shore. They teach us that the most shallow, vain pursuits are what will bring us satisfaction and happiness. They teach us that problems that exist only within the mind of the individual are actual real problems that need to be taken seriously. I mean, it's madness. It's insanity. And so over the next little while, I'm going to be giving lots of videos about different ways that you can develop the type of consciousness that makes you more loving and more compassionate towards others. And as such, you will find more happiness in life. So thank you. Blessed be.